Yo, what's up, and welcome to episode 196 of Throwback Hoops. My name is Rob Clayton, and I'm joined by the one and only Woody V.
How are you, man? Good to be here, as always.
Great to be back another week. We're recording on Tuesday, the 13th of January. I've been working all today, and you've had the day off, but all power to you, mate. I'm sure you're enjoying a bit of a break. I'm assuming you watch heaps of hoops today, right?
Yeah, for sure, man.
Nice. We might quiz you on some of that later. So, all right, well, just before we get into it, just a reminder to please make sure you like, rate, and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to your audio podcast. Let's do as we always do, Woods, and take it away with some jerseys. What do you got for us?
All right, man. This is like a holy grail. You will not believe I have this jersey. All right,
nice.
And I got to give a shout out to my boy JB. He's been trying to source this jersey for me for months now, and he's finally got it. This is no fake. This is a hardwood classic from the NBA stores, and there's not many of these ever made, bro. So
nice.
Check this out.
So Woods is standing up, rocking the Philadelphia 76ers.
Hardwood classic.
Hardwood Classics, number 50. A nice looking jersey. Wow. Now that is a random one. When did you get that?
Oh man, like JB knows a guy who there's not many of them made, so like JB knows a guy who could source one. So shout out to you, level. JB, and he's like, don't tell Robbie before you get on the show. He's gonna be surprised to see you.
I'm very jealous of that one. That's about as rare as an Aussie in the NBA jersey as you'll find. Yeah. Like unless you're finding like a Mitch Creek or an Isaac Humphries or something like that's awesome. Love that.
Yeah, I don't think there's many of these going around, right? JB was saying I reckon you're the only one in Australia that might actually have one, right?
Yeah,
But awesome, man. I thought you'd like that. So let's just go through a little bit of Mark Bradtke's accolades, shall we? So Mark Robert Bradtke, born 27th of September 1969. Libra, just like me, so 3 days before me's birthday is actually. Adelaide, South Australia, as I said. Undrafted in 1991. He had a career that spanned from 88 to 2007, starting with the Adelaide 36ers, then spent some time in Spain, came back to the NBL with the Melbourne Tigers, went over to Philly, where he wore this jersey that I'm wearing now, came back to the Melbourne Tigers, a bit of time with Olympiacos before coming back with the Brisbane Bullets and became a champion in 2007 in his final year, as we know, right?
Yeah.
So his career highlights: 3-time NBL champion, NBL's most valuable player, and 6-time NBL All-Star. We're talking about the hypothetical All-Star game selections we're doing today on the show and last week, Robbie. He played in an era where the All-Star game was an important part of the NBL calendar, right? 2-time All-NBL third team, NBL most improved player. He's on the 20th anniversary NBL team, the 25th anniversary NBL team. His number 50 is retired by the Melbourne Tigers, and he was inducted in the Australian Basketball Hall of Fame in 2013. So what are your memories of the great man and his contributions towards Australian basketball?
Firstly, it's interesting you mentioned that All-Star thing. I think it's a shame now that we're not going to be able to talk about players in this era and say, Mitch Creek was an 8-time All-Star or something, because they don't have these games. So That's a good point there. But no, look, I saw a lot of Bradtke growing up, like in Perth, and seeing him play for those Adelaide 36ers teams, and also on quite a few Boomers teams as well, like, when they had him with the long hair and everything else like that. He was just a larger-than-life sort of guy, wasn't he? Such a good player. Someone that maybe gets forgotten about a little bit. Maybe... I don't know why. I mean, he should, and you mentioned those accolades there, which really stand out. But, yeah, just a quality player. Moved very well for his size as well. He was a very skilled player. He could pass, similar to, Luke Longley, a big sort of guy that was skilled, could pass the ball and, hit that little baseline face-up jump shot and everything else like that. So, yeah, definitely a big fan of Bradtke. I've got a nice signed card of him in one of the cupboards behind me there, but I certainly do not have a jersey. So, loving that, mate. Very nice.
Yeah, thanks, man. And just a sporting family as well. Nicole Provis or Nicole Bradtke, former professional tennis player, is his wife. He's got a son, Jensen Bradtke, currently playing for the Bullets as a DP.
Someone I've commentated before as well. COE,
Is he on DP status at the moment?
I believe he is. Yeah.
And there's another son that might have played footy, right?
Okay, I didn't know that one. Yeah. Well, it's certainly not a name that comes up very often. So if there's a Bradtke out there, it's probably related to Mark in some way. So.
But yeah, just awesome, man, and what a great rebounder. Like, when you talk about the greatest, if you're selecting an all-time starting 5 for NBL, there's conversation that Bradtke starts at the center position, right? There's a conversation there to be had.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, he was a big boy, wasn't he? And him and Longley, 2 of those bigger guys from those eras that I still remember fondly as well. And what's he doing these days?
Oh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure we see him at games and stuff, right?
Yeah.
He's definitely playing golf with Leonard Copeland and Andrew Gaze from our conversation with Gazy, right?
Yeah, that's true. No, nice, mate. That's as good a jersey as I think you've pulled out for a long
Thanks,
time.
bro.
So
Appreciate
respect on that one. So I'm showing a pretty cool one this week. So a recent arrival. One that the only clue is that I had to get this one. So I'll stand up and show you who I'm rocking today.
I think I know what Robbie's wearing. For those who can't see, it is a Utah Jazz number 13 Clayton Jr. Walter Clayton Jr. jersey. And
not as rare as Bradtke, but I'm tipping there's not a lot of these going around in Australia at the moment, right? I mean, unless you're a big sort of hardcore Florida fan or something like that. So,
or you're a huge basketball fan and your surname is Clayton.
Maybe, yeah, I know someone like that. Cousin Walter, as I call him, Woods. Anytime he's on the TV, I say to my daughter, "Oh, look, Cousin Walter's on the TV," and she kind of rolls her eyes, and she's coming around to the idea a little bit. And so, probably been watching a little bit more Utah than normal just to see how Cousin Walter is going. So, yeah, look, he was the 18th pick in the 2025 draft, averaging 7, 3, and 2, shooting 42%. His minutes have been a bit up and down, so I think he had 30 minutes in the last game he played, and then today he had a DNP CD, unless he was injured and they didn't say. But minutes are up and down. Look, it's a bit of a crowded backcourt in that Utah situation, isn't it? You've got guys like Collier and George, and point guard, I'm forgetting the gun. Woods, help me out, bail me out.
Say again?
Their point guard, their star point guard.
Keontae George, you mean?
Yeah, so Keontae George and Collier as well. So he's sort of playing behind both those two, which is a little bit tough there. But I think he's playing okay from what I've seen of him now. He's certainly got the pedigree there. You know, people know about his college career with Florida, being the finals MVP in the NCAA last season and winning that championship with Florida. Shout out to our boy Sydney Sea Kings, who I know will definitely approve of this jersey. Shout out to you, Sid. What are your thoughts been on Cousin Walter's rookie season so far, Woods?
Yeah, I think he's been showing glimpses and signs of what he could be, right? And I think a Jordan Clarkson, maybe like a Kirby White even type of guy, a microwave sort of scorer that can, create for his teammates and create for himself. Is the kind of ceiling that we would look to for a guy like him. I think Utah's a place where he's going to get an opportunity to play, especially in the back half of the season, right? So I want to see guys like Ace Bailey himself get some more run in the back half of the season.
We might mention that later, but they're certainly going to be one of the main teams to be tanking from what I'm hearing there. So that you might be right. It might be guys like Keontae George and Lowry Markkinen suddenly missed 3 or 4 weeks for a broken fingernail or something like that. So that's one to watch for. But look, as I mentioned it when he got drafted there, look, being a fan of the NBA for as long as I had, and there never being a Clayton in the NBA, this was a pretty cool moment for me, Woods. You might be waiting a while for someone with your surname, right? You never know. It might never happen, you reckon?
No,
you never
there's
know.
Plenty of cricketers with my surname.
True. But no, to see a Clayton out there, loving this jersey as well. It is actually a pretty cool one. Tell you what, Woods, it cost me a bit, this one. They're not cheap. It's the, what is it? It's a Swingman edition ones. Statement edition ones. It was not cheap by the time I got it over here, but I kind of had to get this one, and I'll be wearing this one with pride as well. A bit of Walter Clayton Jr. So,
yeah, while we're on that, we'll just talk about Keontae George, man. Like, how crazy has his development been? Like,
I mean, he's borderline all-star contention, isn't he? I don't think he'll make it this year, but yeah, he's doing it all this year, isn't he? And speaking of Utah, again, we won't get too much on them now, but they lost by 55 against Charlotte on the weekend, and then today they won at Cleveland in double figures. So
123 to 112, I think it was.
Yeah,
right?
Maybe some of those players didn't get the memo about the tank job there, but. Yeah, nice.
Well, had a big game today as well, man. 32,
true.
I think he had, right? So.
Well, 2 really cool jerseys. Would you definitely out-top me? As much as I'm wearing the one with my namesake there, Mark Bradtke, absolutely loving that one.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, nice. All right, I'll finish off the first bit just with the card of the week. I was a little bit undecided last night who I'd actually show this week, but the decision was made for us, and we'll talk a little bit about this in our NBL. So I am showing a 2012 Panini Prism rookie card PSA 9 of none other and John Jenkins.
Oh, yeah.
So Atlanta Hawk, John Jenkins there. And so for those that haven't heard, he's been signed by the Adelaide 36ers to replace
Troy Brown Jr.
Yeah, Troy Brown Jr. And bit of a strange one. Maybe we'll talk about this now quickly. So look quickly on John Jenkins before we get into it. So he played 98 career games with our Hawks, which is pretty cool. Also spent some time with Dallas, Phoenix, Washington, and New York. He was the 23rd pick by the Hawks in 2012. So always known as a good shooter. Had a pretty solid rookie season with the Hawks, but never quite eventuated there. And he's had some time with USA on sort of some of those select teams that play some of the Americas countries and those sort of things over the years, and he's had a long career in Europe there. But look, very excited to see him play. You did ask me yesterday, do I have a John Jenkins jersey? I do not. Fun fact as well, he wore number 12 for the Atlanta Hawks. That's the most common worn jersey, according to Basketball Reference, of anyone that's played for Atlanta, is the number 12 jersey. So, a bit of a strange one. I kind of think John Battle when I hear that number. That's the first one I think of. But, yeah, a bit of a strange one, number 12. But, yeah, John Jenkins. So, firstly, are you excited to see him for Adelaide? And also, a little bit strange timing. Well, then, basically, so a press release comes out saying that Troy Brown Jr. has been released to go back to the US and mutual agreement. We always hear that in these things. And then, literally 2 hours after that, we hear that John Jenkins is signing. So, I don't know, that instantly was a bit of a red flag for me. You don't get someone of John Jenkins' calibre that quickly. But, yeah, what's your thoughts on the move?
So first, let's talk about Jenkins. John Jenkins. I remember... A lot of people are going to confuse him in Australia with Josh Jenkins, the former NBL and AFL player, right?
Yeah.
So,
hey, was he a teammate with AJ Ogilvy as well?
John Jenkins.
Vanderbilt,
Vanderbilt might have been, right?
I think he might have been. I think we might have even mentioned to OJ when we had him a long time ago. When I see him at the next Seals game, I'll ask him about that. But yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah. But I do remember those first 3 seasons with Atlanta, especially that first season. He was really effective off the bench unit.
Yeah.
His minutes started dwindling in that second and third year, and then slowly just faded out of the league, and I almost forgot about him till recently, right?
Yeah.
So, a veteran, someone who's played all over the world since his time in the NBA, so he's a seasoned campaigner coming in to that locker room. But yeah, and to your question on Troy Brown Jr., it was really odd because I really liked him as an NBA player, right? And he just couldn't get his rhythm or fit into the offensive, on the offensive side of things with Adelaide. But I thought he was doing a good job defensively, and I thought they'd just figure out a way over the next 7 or 8 games to make it work, get him right for the playoffs, right?
Hey, Woods, he was a high draft pick in that famed 2018 draft, right? You know, the Luka, the Trae Young, the SGA, the Jaren Jackson. So he was a pretty high draft pick in that one. But yeah, I don't know. The mutual release one, like I said, it always rings red flags to me. I think teams don't want to say, look, it just didn't work or it wasn't a good situation for him. It's easy to say a mutual release, he wanted to go home, but something feels a bit off on that one to me, I think.
And look, honestly, it affects your future career opportunities if you're cut, so maybe they're just doing a solid for him, right?
100%.
Yeah, but as you said, they were already ready a day later with the signing of Jenkins, right? So
where was he playing last? You did tell me that today.
Romania. So
Romania. Know much about the Romanian league, do you, Woods? Or?
No, I don't. But this is what I was saying. Like, people are saying, look, they're opening their pockets Adelaide to sign him, but what he would have been worth 5-6 years ago, is not necessarily what he's going to be worth now. He's just been playing in Romania, right? So they might have got him. I'm not sure, but they might have got him cheaper than people think.
This allows him to sort of play out the season. It's then maybe look at getting back into Europe after that, depending on how he goes here. But yeah, I thought that was a pretty cool one. Of course, Woods, I would have a John Jenkins rookie card PSA. That's my thing. These rookie card PSAs and anyone that can play on the Hawks. I was nearly bought an Auto Hawks rookie card this week. Remember Pape Sai? Do you remember that guy?
Yes, I do.
So, I actually didn't get it. The guy on the card page sold it to someone else, which is unfortunate. But, I was looking at getting that one. I thought that would be a random one. I think he played 3 NBA games. So, that's about the levels that I go to with these cards. So, all right, Woods, that was fun. Some really great jerseys of the week and a very topical card of the week there. So, we got a little bit to talk about, don't we? The time of recording last week, we kind of knew that our boy Trae Young was on his way out. So we're going to start off with some NBA. Sad news in a way. Like I think probably this news maybe hit me a little bit harder than you did, Woods, unless I'm mistaken on that one. But the Hawks, they traded Trae Young. It did eventuate. It was a trade with Washington. There was no draft picks involved. It was Trae Young to Washington for CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert. Now, I reckon if someone had told me a year ago that this would have been the trade, I just would have laughed at him. You would have thought Trae would have commanded probably a star player and, probably some draft picks as well. But this is how much his stock has fallen over the last 12 months or so. I don't know that it's all about his ability on the court. I think he does have quite a high contract, and I think his play at both ends doesn't quite add up to the contract he's got there. I believe it was 30% of the Hawks' salary cap that he commanded there, which is a lot of money for one person that is a one-way player there. But give me some thoughts. Where a few days on from the trade now, I think CJ and Kispert have both had their debut for Atlanta. Trae's still not playing with Washington. Let's see how that goes with their tanking job there. But how are you feeling about the deal?
Well, I guess we'll talk about his legacy and stuff later on. I know, but let's just talk about it from standing back and assessing it, right? And we've talked about it on this show before, and we've not hit it. That we know that Atlanta is defending better with Young on the bench, right? It's nothing new, right? We've said it, the media said it. And so I went and actually looked up some stats to see what that actually meant this year, Robbie, right?
Yeah.
So the actual shooting difference with Young on the floor this season is it's clear to see. So the Hawks' opponent shoots 63% effective field goal percentage with Young on the court and just 54% with him on the bench, right? Now, we started the season off and we had a lot of high expectations, right? So we went out and got Noah, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. We went out and got Kristaps Porzingis. And we were hoping that all these guys could play well together. But in the 10 games that Young has actually played this season, we've gone, I think, 2-8, if I'm not mistaken, right? I mean, so it just came to a point where, look, this is where we're at. You know, the statistics are clearly showing it, right? We need to move forward. And this deal has to happen. So they didn't want to wait till the trade deadline. They felt that, you know, this had to happen now. And then from what we got back, do you want me to just quickly go into that?
I was just going to ask you,
Yeah.
do you think like it was a big enough sample size this year, given that, you know, his defense has never improved over the years? He's a player that's led us to conference finals. We've had some decent seasons, albeit we seem to be 40 wins every season now. Why so different now? Also, on a secondary one to that, there's a lot of point guards in this league that aren't good defenders. I'll throw 3 at you straight away, Woods. Dame Lillard, who I've been critical of the last few years, he literally couldn't guard a light post these days. Luka Doncic, poor defender. Jalen Brunson, poor defender. So, like, it's not like he's the only point guard that's out there. Maybe he's the worst of that group, and maybe it's just his size. I mean, he's undersized, he's not athletic. That sort of goes against him. But do you think it was a long enough sample size, or you just think, you seem like you're okay with it?
I'm okay
right?
with it because I mean, in previous years, it's shown that this occurs, not to the extent. I know the sample size wasn't big this year, but what we did see is we saw getting Nickeil Alexander-Walker, him and Dyson Daniels playing, what the team looks like with them on the floor, you know?
Yeah.
And they're the younger generation, right? And I think for both parties, right, we'll talk about his legacy and how he's, true or false, you're talking about how he's unfairly potentially been maligned over the years and things like that, right? So maybe, and I said this on the show previously, it's good for both parties, for Trae to start. What's his legacy going to be? You know, he's still, what did he say he was, 27, 28 now, is he? Right?
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
So, like, he's still got time to write his legacy somewhere
A lot
else.
of time,
right?
yeah.
So, I think the move was right. And do you want me to quickly touch on who we got
talk
here?
about who we got back. Talk about it from a Hawks point of view, right? So we're getting a proven veteran in CJ McCollum and someone in Corey Kispert who's been with the one team. What are Hawks fans going to see from these two guys?
Look, so I've watched a lot of CJ this season, man. I've become a huge fan of CJ in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And like his ability to create off the dribble, get his own shot is something that we need, right? He does not need to score off assisted baskets, right? And it gives you something off the bench that was lacking previously on our roster, right? And we've seen that even on the first game, right? He just fits into the system straight away. And he's going to be great for us. An experienced veteran on the bench.
Good teammate too, isn't he?
Great teammate. Good guy. Now, the Kispert one is one that maybe we disagree a little bit. I know we talked offline and you said, Trae Young's not known for his defense, but neither is CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert, right? But after doing a little bit more digging, right? And look, another thing you did mention to me offline is there might be a bit of an overlap with Corey Kispert and what Luke Kennard does for us, right? You mentioned that. And I agree with you on that, right? They do have similar skill sets. But I think that looking at the metrics, Kispert is a slightly better defender than Luke Kennard, right? He is under contract through 28-29, whereas Kennard is only on a 1-year deal, right, Robbie? So what he may be doing is not having as much of a role this season, but learning from some others, getting the system right. And he might be an able replacement for Kennard if he decides to move on next year, right?
Maybe,
so I like that in that sense.
Shout out to Luke Kennard as well, who basically gifted CJ McCollum his number 3 jersey. So for those that don't know, CJ McCollum has worn the number 3 throughout his career. All the places he's played at, he's been number 3, right? Interesting, this is the first season that Luke Kennard has worn number 3 as well. So maybe it wasn't a tough one. I was talking to a couple of mates yesterday. Geez, you'd love to know what the transaction was. How much did it cost CJ McCollum? I threw out 100,000 Woods, and my mate kind of laughed at me. But like CJ McCollum, I looked last night. His rate per game, his pay salary per game is between $350,000 and $400,000. So you don't think he's like, I'll chuck you $100,000 just to get my number back. $100,000 for him is like, I mean, it's not even $100 for us. It's like it's like $10 for us, right? So I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if it was something like that. But good on Luke Kennard for doing it. And Luke Kennard had a great game in his first game wearing number 4, which was pretty cool. So
did he sell it, or did he give it
he did. He 100% did. And CJ said, look, we're not going to go into it, but there was a transaction that changed hands and stuff. So apparently they were sharing messages on the day before, and then they did it. There's got to be clearance from the league to get it done. So I thought that was pretty cool there. But look, I'm happy to see them. They both seem like good guys, so certainly welcome them to the ATL. But I'm going to miss Trae Woods. He's let's talk about the legacy, right? So I think I sort of briefly mentioned last week.
Do you want to talk quickly about what it means to the Wizards before we go into the legacy?
All right, we can do that. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Look, that's one thing I really wanted to raise with you, right? And Young has an opportunity. Is he going to play this season? Do we know?
I mean, I'm wondering if it's like one of these things like last year when Toronto traded for Brandon Ingram, and he had an ankle sprain that kept him out for 4 months. You know what I mean? It's interesting. Trae was questionable in those last few games of the Hawks. He's now out with like 4 injuries listed next to his name. So I'm not 100% sure. Look, I hope he does. And I would say that he would, but I wouldn't guarantee it.
Yeah, I mean, look, guys like, if he does play, right, when he does eventually play, guys like Koulibaly, George, and Sarr will likely have more off-ball roles, right? And I don't mind it for those guys.
Imagine him and Sarr together, Woods.
Yeah, I mean, they could be like that John Collins, Trae kind of combination,
well.
right? Yeah, that lob threat. I really like the idea there. So I don't think those guys are going to be affected as much.
Yeah.
But I think the guys that are going to be affected, like Bob Carrington, right? Trae Johnson that are there. Bob Carrington's a bit of a combo guard, and like with Trae coming in here, he's going to have to, sort of move to the 2 spot a little bit more. How's it going to affect Trae Johnson? Maybe he'll be a mentor for Trae Johnson. There's options here, but look, is there going to be a more dangerous pick and roll playmaker Washington has had since prime John Wall?
It'd be fun to watch, like the way he can work with these young guys. And by all accounts, Wizards fans are really excited. They don't often get some of these high level players, and they're getting a guy that's going to be possibly a face, he'll be the guy on the billboards and stuff like that. So I will say, Woods, I'm going to continue to really support Trae. I'll probably get a Wizards jersey. I hope he, in a weird way to say it, I hope he proves us wrong. I hope he just kills it, basically gets back to all-star form and maybe makes the Hawks ask a few questions. But you're right, the Hawks have probably covered that depth, and I reckon Nickeil Alexander-Walker's play this year has maybe fast-tracked this decision, right? I don't think anyone thought he was going to be this good this year. I think, what did they say? He had 2 games of more than 20 last year, and he's had 5 games of more than 30 for the Hawks this year, and does it at both ends. He's a great player, Nickeil Alexander-Walker.
Jalen Johnson as well. His ascension has been incredible, right? And you can, with him being like a point forward as well, you've got different guys creating for them. It could be Alexander Walker, it could be Daniels, it could be him, right?
Yeah.
So you can really cover for Trae not being on the floor a little bit more with their development.
Yeah. All right, give me some legacy. Well, maybe I'll start off. So I mentioned last week, in all the years I've been going for the Hawks, I think he's our second best player. And I said, apologies to guys like Mookie Blaylock, to guys like Joe Johnson, to Kemi Mutombo, just to sort of name a few guys off the top of my head, Paul Millsap even. Look, he's been amazing. I think, and in terms of sort of stats there, so he's the Hawks' leader in assists, Woods. He's first also in 3-point field goals, and he's 6th in points. We've also got the 3rd highest points per game average for the Hawks, which I thought was pretty cool. I'm going to put you on the spot as well, Woods. So I mentioned he is the... So he's the 6th highest points scored for the Hawks. I've got the top 10 here. How many of these top 10 can you name? So I've said 1 in Trae. How many of these other 9 can you name? So Joe Johnson is 7th.
Yeah. Dominique Wilkins.
1st.
Doc Rivers.
No.
Kevin Willis.
Yep, Kevin Willis is 8th.
Mookie Blaylock.
No.
Assist guy. Josh Smith.
Josh Smith is 9th, yep. Think of older guys now, pre our time. Think of some of our retired jerseys and stuff.
Going back now, man.
We saw Cliff Hagan, yeah,
Cliff
4th.
Hagan, yeah.
And the 2 above him, we saw their jerseys hanging in the rafters when we went there in 2024.
We're talking... I'm just having a blank, man.
A big white guy that played...
Oh, yeah.
I'll take out of misery. Bob Pettit, so he's
Bob
number
Pettit,
2.
Yep.
And I'll tell you the other one. So we've got Lou Hudson at number 3, John Drew at number 5, and Eddie Johnson, the bad Eddie Johnson, off the court, not the good one that's still commentating for the Suns now. So that was the top 10. So yeah, he's finished 6th with 12,400 points, most threes there, which was pretty cool. Quick one while I've got these stats in front of you, Woods. Who hit more threes in their career for the Hawks, Josh Smith or Dominique?
Dominique, maybe?
Yeah, Dominique by a considerable margin.
Yeah,
Dominique 500 made threes, Josh Smith 267. So I thought that was an interesting just fun fact there. Trae ended up playing 493 games in those 8 seasons there for the Hawks. So any final thoughts before we finish this little Trae memoriam here?
That legacy, right? Less than 5 years ago, the Hawks reached the 2021 conference finals behind him.
Sure
right?
did.
You know, and he will always be remembered. He averaged 28.8 points per game, 9.5 assists per game in the playoffs at the age.
The Knicks will remember him, I would have thought.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
And Ben Simmons, maybe.
And Philly, right?
Yeah.
And he was only 22 years of age, right? And that shit was written. Sorry about the bad language. That was written into folklore, right? And I mean. And we'll always remember it. Like later on in life, when they're playing back these great NBA memories or great moments in NBA history, that's gonna come up, right? So, man,
I've already gone and watched some highlight packages. Some of those playoff games he had against Boston, where he was fully in his groove. They're hitting the threes and doing the ice tray thing and stuff like that. He was really fun to watch. So, as I said, wish him all the best. I'm still a bit sad about it, but these things happen, right? You've just got to sort of stick with your team and everything else like that. And wish all the guys in this trade the best of luck. Before we finish the NBA bit quickly, Woods, I did give you a little bit of homework. I said, look, now we've already had one star traded. With the trade deadlines, 3 weeks away, maybe 3.5 weeks away. I wanted to see if you had any other names that you could see being traded. So, look, Giannis is probably the one that's been talked about now, but give me someone else that's not Giannis that is a big name player that you think could be traded.
Michael Porter Jr., right? Now, this is more a situation where they decide to stay with Giannis, right, and bring someone like K-Mid in. That's the kind of role that Michael Porter Jr. could play on that roster, right?
He's
Ryan
been
Rollins,
awesome this year.
Yeah, he's been great.
So good. On fire again today too.
Totally, and he can come in and literally do a Chris Middleton type role in Milwaukee, play alongside Giannis and Rollins. Then you can send a mixture of like Kyle Kuzma, Taurean Prince, Bobby Portis, whatever. You can make this work somehow, right? But
Golden State apparently are high on Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah.
I don't know who they give up to get him there, but and that's the sort of situation. Being in Brooklyn, it's a funny situation there. That team's not winning for a while, are they? So, all right, who else have you got for me?
I mean, Jonathan Kuminga, he's got to end up in Sacramento, right?
You reckon Sac? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Keon Ellis, there's a few others there that,
Hey, what did I say to you about Jonathan Kuminga, Woods? I reckon he has said something verbally to Steve Kerr that there is no coming back from, because there's no other reason that he's not. He hasn't played since before Christmas now. He was probably their best player in those playoff series last year. There's something obviously that's gone on there between these two, and Kerr's just like, I am not playing this guy. So he'll be traded. Whoever he goes to will probably put up some decent numbers there. But yeah, it's strange that the whole Jonathan Kuminga experience never sort of worked out in Golden State.
We've seen that there's animosity between the two over the years, right?
And
it might just come to a head at a point where it's the relationship is untenable, as you would say.
Yeah, true. And what about someone who's a bit of a gunslinger, pardon the pun there, maybe someone like Ja Morant? There's been talk about him, but I think Memphis could be in for a bit of a shock. I reckon you probably get the same sort of return as the Hawks got for Trae there. Because, there was talk that Memphis is wanting multiple first-round picks. Who's giving up multiple first-round picks for Ja Morant? The guy's always injured. His game is going to decline quickly. He's still only 26 years old. He's still pretty young, but he's never improved that jump shot that he's got. His athleticism, even at that age, doesn't seem to be what it was now. So who's throwing multiple draft picks in Memphis for him?
And the attitude problems, the locker room issues, right? That's something that people want to
the gun toting,
right?
Yeah.
Whatever. So I think his stock is at an all-time. It's not at an all-time low, but it's pretty low. It's pretty low.
Yeah. Anyone else? I'll maybe throw out. I mean, obviously Anthony Davis is injured now, so I'm not sure. Maybe this trade they were talking about maybe happening with the Hawks. I can't see the Hawks doing that if he's out for 3 months. The other one maybe Domantas Sabonis there, Woods. He's another one that's in Sacramento. He's been injured way too much this year. Who knows what Sacramento's plans are? He's someone that I think contending teams could really like to get. If his value is at pretty low now, you'd throw something to get someone like Sabonis, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man. definitely. And I don't know what's going on there. It's an absolute
strange,
basket case of a franchise, Sacramento, right? Also, those two guards in Minnesota, Rob Dillingham, Terrence Shannon Jr., just quietly, I'm hearing they're available. They've not been used. I
think Rob Dillingham's very, very available, I would have thought, with the contribution he's giving them, which is basically nothing. He was a high draft pick. We know that was a bad draft last year, but he was a top 10 draft pick that just hasn't worked out there. So, yeah, Memphis is probably one of those teams that could look at making a sneaky move there and strengthen that team up a little bit, right?
Those guys have, a high ceiling that I just mentioned, Terrence Shannon Jr., Rob Dillingham. If they find another environment which is conducive to them developing, right? It could be a good opportunity. But that's at the lower end of town. But
yeah. Well, look, we'll certainly keep everyone updated with this. It'll be an interesting few weeks. There's always a lot of moves that come in. It's always quite exciting now. I'm always a bit nervous to see. I don't want the Hawks to trade Reece Shea. I'm putting this out on the airways now, Woods. I don't want them to give up on a 20-year-old. He's a number one draft pick. He's not playing at that level of a number one draft pick that we see with some of these other guys. There's been a lot of great number one draft picks. It was a bad draft last year, right? Everyone knew it. I've said to you, and I've probably said on this mic as well, if he was the fourth pick in the draft last year, everyone would be saying, isn't Reece Shea good sort of thing. I still think if you did a redraft now, he's probably the third, or at the very worst, the fourth, drafted player. It's a bit of a concern that Sarr's probably number one, or, Castle 1A, 1B sort of thing, but I can't think of many other people. You'd certainly redraft him again over Reed Shepherd and some of these other guys, I would have thought. So
also got to remember, he's so raw when he came in, right? He's still
20
raw
years
now.
of age, right?
Give him a few more years to develop.
Yeah, 100%. So hope the Hawks hold on to him. All right, that was good, Woods. There was plenty of NBA to talk about, but also plenty of NBL to talk about, right? So, look, we talked about the Adelaide situation there. Perth and Sydney are both in the news as well because Perth's got David Duke Jr. I'm hearing differing timeframes of how long he'll be out for, so who knows whether Perth are going to do something. I've got to say, as even the Wildcats fan that I am, Perth have never been exactly proactive in these situations. We've seen Adelaide go out and get John Jenkins. You'll talk to us in a sec about who Sydney look like they're close to signing. Who knows with Perth? I don't know what their plan is with that. But speaking of that, you shared some news today. I know you were very excited with. So who are the Sydney Kings close to signing to replace Bull Quall?
Well, Torrey Craig, man, like they're in
close to, or they've signed him. I think it might have actually happened
might have
since
happened
we spoke last.
We spoke, right? So that's
huge.
really good, and great replacement there for Bull Quall. I was talking to a lot of people around the Kings brass today, right? Members, media, and stuff.
Did you have a chat to Brian Gorgon?
No, I didn't have a chat to him, but but everyone's happy, right, about this development, let's say.
For those that haven't seen Torrey Craig, you've got a Torrey Craig jersey from him.
I do. Brisbane Bullets one. Yeah.
For those that haven't seen Torrey Craig, give me a little thing about what you think he's going to do for the Kings team, right?
I think he comes in with a lot of intangibles. You can play him at the 3-4, maybe even the 5 in certain positions. I was talking to Mookie earlier today, and he said he can bring a little bit of what Bull Quall does, a little bit of what Xavier Cooks does as well. And it's a great story, right? If I was to tell you how long ago did he debut for the Cairns Taipans?
It's got to be 10 years, right?
12 years ago,
12,
right?
Yeah.
12 years ago. So he is gone. And he was a pioneer in the sense that he was one of the first guys who used the NBL as a springboard
for sure
to build a really successful NBA career. I know guys like Doug Overton, others have gone and sat at the end of the bench and whatnot in the NBA, right? But this guy actually won a championship, contributed on good teams, right?
Yeah.
And now he comes back full circle at 35 at the end of his career. He's 23 back then at Cairns.
Yeah.
He understands the FIBA rules. He understands the way the game is officiated here. He's got the experience of winning an NBA championship. Man, this
great signing.
Awesome.
I'll be even higher on the Kings than I already am, which I don't like being, but yeah, I've liked them all season. They're adding this guy. I mean, shout out to Bull Quall. He actually had a better season than I think a lot of people, even some of these people you're probably speaking to today, would have thought. He was really good, I thought.
Definitely.
But great to get Torrey Craig there. So. All right, well, we had some more homework. Obviously, last week we named our hypothetical All-Star teams, right? So I did the Australian team and you did the rest of the world team. So an apology from me. Look, I actually got scolded by Woody last week, right? So Woody set these parameters of what to pick right. Maybe I didn't read it or I rushed it or something. But essentially, Woody scolded me and I should have had Bryce Cotton in the Australian team based on the criteria Woody gave me. So what that means is DJ Vasiljevic, on your bike, you're out. Bryce Cotton, you're in to replace him, and obviously you're starting in my team. So just to recap maybe my starting team for that, Woods, I've got Bryce Cotton, Nathan Sobey, McVeigh, Cooks, and Humphreys. That's my starting 5. On the bench, I've got Delhi, Magnay, Golding, Hunter, Foxwell, Bannon, and Hickey. So that's my Aussie team. Do you want to take it away with yours?
Yeah, I'll do my
Am I still in trouble or am I okay?
No, you're okay, man, right?
Phew.
Because obviously Bryce Cotton is now is a local, right? So we're going to go with that. And obviously he's going to help that team, right? So,
I think so.
All right, cool. So let's go with my starting five, right? So I've got Matthew Dellavedova. You know me, I like to do it by position. Point guard, right?
Yeah.
Bryce Cotton, shooting guard. Nathan Sobey at small forward. Xavier Cooks at power forward. And Isaac Humphries at center, right? Now my bench, Jack McVeigh,
Yeah.
Josh Bannon, Will Magnay, Chris Golding, Sam McDaniel, Jalen Galloway, and DJ Vasiljevic, bro.
So three different to me. Man, the McDaniel one's a surprise. So I'm looking at that quickly. So you don't have the Southeast pair in Geordie Hunter or Foxwell, and you don't have Dave O'Hickey? Is that right?
No, I do not have Dave
So
O'Hickey.
sorry, tell me who you had again. You had McDaniel, you had...
Jalen Galloway, DJ
Yeah.
Vasiljevic, right? And I just think for an all-star game, Jalen Galloway, you know, high flyer,
Yeah.
knock down the three. DJ Vasiljevic, shoot threes. And Sam McDaniel is just like, there's no real wing guy, right? You know, that
Defender,
can
right?
play the three to back up anyone, right? So I just think he's just an underrated guy who does
Yeah.
on both ends of the floor. We don't speak about him enough. When you represented Australia, right? And Dave O'Hickey, okay, if you had asked me to pick this team a month ago, I would have put him in there, right?
I like it though, because we had very similar teams, and then we rounded out that team with three very different ones there. Man, you're a Geordie Hunter fan as well, so
I
yeah.
am.
But, I think there is a lot of big guys already, right? So I can see maybe the need for wings more. When you've got your Magnays, you've got your Bannons, you've got your Humphreys and your Cooks as well. Yeah,
right. So I thought in terms of that, and McVeigh could play the four as well. You know, in that situation,
Yeah.
you know, you could put him as a five in some crazy lineups, even if you want to, right? In an all-star game. So
any snubs?
yeah. So the guys that I nearly made it, okay, on my roster: Owen Foxwell, Angus Glover, Jordan Hunter, those guys that you had, right? Or you had two of them.
Yeah, Glover was a snub as well for me. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Ben Henschel, Sam Froling, and Dave O'Hickey, right? So
Henschel, all right.
Henschel, I just thought, you know, NBA level guy, all-star game.
In his mind.
Yeah.
But no, he's been a bit better the last few weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah, all right, I like that. That was actually fun doing this, and man, we hope we can speak this into existence, right? So I did my rest of the world team. Have you got your team handy to read out who you had? Or, okay, who was in your team?
You got yours first. I got to bring mine up, right? Don't you have mine in front of you?
I don't have it in front of me, no, but I'll read out who I've got, right? I did the same thing. So I did the starters there. So I'm pretty sure this is who you had. So my starters, I've got PJC and Kendrick Davis, so the mini combo there. So, okay, I'm not a big fan of the two guys with them, but just what talent they've got there. I've got Bryce Hamilton at the three. I've got Christian Doolittle at the four and JaVale McGee at the five. So did you have any... Or do you want me just to read mine out and we'll talk about differences?
Well, we'll go to the starting lineup. The only difference I had is I had Casey Prather at the four and I had Christian Doolittle on the bench. Right?
Okay, sure. I must admit, when I first did mine, I forgot about Prather, so I went in and fixed it up. But my bench, so I've got Prather, I've got Jesse Edwards, I've got a couple of Wildcats in Dylan Windler and JLA. Hopefully JLA can grab actually more than 3 or 4 rebounds in that game, because his rebounds this year are terrible. I've got Sam Meninga, Karim Lopez, and Harrison. Yeah, so that was basically my apologies there. So the big one for me here was Zylan Cheatham. He's my big apology, my big snub on that one. I wanted to get some of these New Zealand Breakers guys in. So he was probably the big snub for me. The other ones I've got on my snub list are Tyler Harvey, who I feel good not having him on there. I know you had him on your team. Sam Wardenberg, the big fella from Cairns, who's, you know, maybe again, if he'd have been healthy all year, he might have been higher up. And another guy from Cairnswoods who's kind of impressive. Andrew Andrews.
Yeah, bro.
He was a
I want to
snub
talk
for me,
about him
right?
later. What about John Brown III, bro? Come on. He's a snub.
Yeah, no, he's a snub. All right, I'll put him on there as well. But I'm pretty happy with that. So just to recap, I've got PJC and Davis starting alongside Hamilton, Doolittle and McGee. And my bench, I've got Prather, Edwards, Windler, JLA, Meninga, Lopez and Harrison.
Yeah,
so how did that differ from you? Who did you not have?
On my bench, I've got Christian Doolittle. I've got Sam Meninga, Jesse Edwards and Joe Luala-Chul Jr. And my 3 different ones are Zylan Cheatham, Tyler Harvey and John Brown III. And you went with... Who do you go with?
Windler, Lopez, and Harrison.
Got it. Okay, and fair enough, man. So you got a lot of Kiwis in that one.
Yeah, there is quite a few, isn't there? Yeah,
awesome. The Kiwis play with the Americans, and you know, it's just awesome, man.
Nice.
And you know, a guy like Hun Jung Lee or Amritpal Singh. Like, I'm not saying they'd make it, but those guys would qualify to make that team.
You're being a bit biased talking about your boy Singh there, but no, I like that.
But you know what I mean, like those Asian players. Or your boy from Guam. What's his name?
Ross.
Ernest Ross.
The big man. Yeah, nice. All right, that was fun. That was a good exercise, and maybe that's something we can sort of do on an annual basis just to see how these teams change around.
For sure,
man.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about this current round in the NBL. So it's hoops first. As I mentioned at the start, it's Tuesday the 13th of January. No games for a couple of days. I think it's the first time for a while we don't have... Well, actually, we did have a rescheduled game last night that we weren't supposed to have, but no games on the Tuesday, no games on Wednesday for the first time in a while, but the games kick off on Thursday. How are you feeling about hoops first? You excited about it?
Yeah, really excited, man. I mean, the games are late, 9:30 on Thursday and Friday, but I mean,
Hey, it's not like you're getting up for work the next day, so you'll be good, right?
I'll be good to watch it, man. Looking forward to it. Yeah, I'll watch the girls' games as well. It's going to be like a great carnival for basketball, right? So.
Hey, what about Los Nicholson out for the rest of the season for their Flames as well? Really sad to hear that news. But
starting to play some decent basketball as well.
It definitely was, yeah. All right, well, take us away with these games and maybe we can give some thoughts.
All right, well, Kings and Bullets is the first game. Apart from the news about... so the Torrey Craig news is official now. Is that right?
Yeah, I think I saw something just before we went on air. So yeah,
that is brilliant, man. So the Kings had a great weekend, beating the Breakers by 40 odd points, 103-62.
It was the only game of the round that wasn't close, I believe. Wasn't it?
Everything else was pretty good, and then a huge win against United, who lost to Cairns earlier in the round and came at us with everything, right? And Kings put in a great effort there and just climbing up that ladder now. So pretty happy with that weekend with the Kings. Bullets, not so much. The one positive thing to come out of the Bullets is Hunter Maldonado, right? Playing some great basketball. I think he's playing for a contract next year as well. I know a lot of NBL teams will be looking at him and saying, look...
do a lot worse, couldn't you?
Do a lot worse. So... Yeah, so the Bullets lost to the Taipans, and do they have another game this week? No, they just had the one game and they lost to the Taipans this week, right? So, all right, so Kings should take care of business easily. Yep.
I think Kings should definitely take care of business this one. Brisbane, not my favourite team to watch. So yeah, I think you're right with Sydney on that one. Yep,
awesome. So let's move to the Friday night. It's going to be a good game. Wildcats versus Hawks.
What a great round, last round from the Wildcats. That win against Southeast Melbourne on Saturday night was one of the better ones for the season, I thought. Southeast were coming off that big win a few days earlier in the fiery game against the Hawks there. But I was really impressed. They came out with the all-Aussie backcourt in Pepper and Henschel there. Didn't have their import guard there. But I thought there were some really good signs in that game there. Windler was good. Doolittle took over in the fourth quarter. But yeah, really good win on a pretty tough court to play there. And pretty happy with the way the Wildcats are going at the moment, Woods. Maybe a little bit under the radar too, I would have thought.
Definitely. 107-97. That was a great game, actually, right? Good, so they only had the one game this weekend, right?
Yeah.
And look, I agree with you. They look a lot better with Riley there on the floor, right? Doolittle still leading the team in assists, man, right?
And really got hurt, which I haven't quite heard the extent of that, but that was sad to see him go off. He's really important to that team, isn't he? Yeah.
And my question to you is, I heard really in a press conference say, look, Duke might be back as soon as 4 to 6 weeks. It might not be 8 weeks. I'm hoping that he can come back this year. Like, what are you hearing? This
is why I like when they had that injury thing. I don't know if many teams. I know Brisbane kind of had it with Lamar Patterson, didn't they? But we had Todd Witherswoods.
Yep.
I'll get his first name right this year. I thought that was great last year because any time one of our imports, Windler missed some time, Cotton missed some time, they just slot Withers out there, and he was a pretty serviceable player. I don't know why they didn't try and go for that this year because that just could have been, he could have been an NBL One quality guy that you saw under your eyes, playing in the NBL One West. But look, we don't have that luxury in Perth this year, so. Yeah, I'm sort of hearing that as well. Maybe they're expecting him to come back, and maybe they think they can weather the storm there. But I think that's a big if there. Maybe they don't want to disrupt the team again, bringing in another person. But if that's 4 to 6 weeks, it ends up being 7 weeks, for example. That's season over basically. So yeah, I'll have to watch this space because if they don't sign someone by I think by Friday in this game, they can't. So it sounds like they probably won't. So teams are your boys are getting Torrey Craig, Adelaide's getting Jenkins, and Perth's keeping their hands in their pockets again, which is a little bit frustrating.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. So yeah, as you said, it's got to happen very soon, right?
Yeah.
Let's see how that plays out. I don't think so from what Riley said, right? But if it depends on Riley Jr. and what his injury status is, right?
True.
So
yeah.
And the Hawks, the Illawarra Hawks,
they are done, absolutely done.
Speaking of season being done, lost.
How do you lose to New Zealand that just lost by 1,000 points to Sydney on your home court? For the second time this year they've lost to them there. They're really disappointing. Their body language and everything else like that. I'm big on the body language stuff. It's about as bad as I've seen in a team for quite a while there. So I think there could be pretty decent changes in that team at the end of the year. But absolutely cooked. I don't care even if they beat Perth in this game. They're done.
Yeah, they're not beating Perth.
Okay.
I don't think
I'll
so,
go with that.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're shot in confidence. There's problems in the locker room, right?
Yeah,
I can't see
it's
them
not good.
flying all the way to Perth and getting a win on a Friday night.
They've been good there in the past,
They
actually,
have.
but this is a different team, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay, Taipans versus Breakers. Really good signs from the Taipans. I want to talk to you a little bit about Andrew Andrews. They won both games against United and against Brisbane, right?
Yeah.
This whole narrative about, this is how good Cairns would have been if they had all their players from the start. That's not true, right? I disagree with that. I think if you look at that team now, and Marcus Lee's washed as an import in this league. In fact, NBL 1 team should probably look at him as an NBL 1 level import. And
if they could nail 3 imports next year, they might be all right.
Yeah, Admiral Schofield will not work, right? It hasn't worked.
No.
So let's just say they got Ashton Haggins, defensive-minded point guard, who was their original starting point guard to start at the point guard position. They get another 4-5 import, not Marcus Lee, and they have Andrew Andrews coming off the bench as a microwave 6-man who can do everything, right? You have Wardenberg fit from the start of the year, right?
Yeah.
Then Jack McVeigh, all of a sudden, his role, he can play alongside those guys. There's pieces around him, right? And the team looks a lot better. Maybe Mojave King gets signed at the start of the year, right?
Yeah.
These are the kind of... They made some recruitment errors
They did.
at the start of the year, but there are some promising signs here. I still think they need to move on from Ford. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, well, you know my thoughts on that. I totally agree.
I
But look, I will give them some credit though. That was, a good sort of double to get those wins. Especially in that win against United, who's in a little bit of trouble, and we'll talk about that next. But yeah, that was a pretty good round. And look, I think they'll continue that and make it 3 in a row and beat a very up and down Breakers team on Saturday night.
Yeah, I mean Jekyll and Hyde lose by 40 and then go win. Against Illawarra. You never know what you're going to get with the Breakers. Okay, United versus Jack Jumpers. I mean, United, we're going to talk about them a little bit more. Jack Jumpers are probably going to be moving into a contention for a top 4 spot. They got to be pretty happy with their win over Adelaide, right?
Yeah, I can see United starting to turn things around, right? I can see that now. Maybe just, they're going to be on the road a little bit coming up with the Australian Open and, schedule, conflicts and everything in Melbourne there. So maybe this will be a good thing for them. Get on the road, get the team sort of together a little bit more than what they have been. I think this is almost a must-win game for them. If they lose that, what have they lost? They've won 2 out of their last 10 games, I think I heard. Which I could be totally wrong with that. That's
2 out of 9, I think.
Okay, something like that. So, look, I think this is almost a must-win. I think they will beat Tassie. Tassie are another team who I think you're not quite sure what you're going to get from them on a game-by-game basis there. They're obviously a lot more consistent than the Breakers in that regard there. But, I think this should be a decent game, actually. They've had a bit of a rivalry, as we know, these teams. But, United for me in this game.
Tassie have looked really good in the last week or two. Almost got up to 500. They beat Adelaide, right? Which has been very difficult to do, right? So they have... the ability to beat anyone. So I think United I think Jack Jumpers are going to get this.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. All right,
and
final game, 36ers versus SEM. 36ers took a loss. We've talked already about them. They've got a new import coming in. Let's see if the visa clears for Jenkins in time to play on Sunday. But
so Woods, every team just playing the one game this round, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, this is probably the best one to finish it here, isn't it? Standalone game on Sunday afternoon. Oof. Yeah. I don't know. That's a tough one, isn't it? Look, I'm probably going to say Adelaide, but like Southeast. I mean, we continue to sort of talk about how good they've been, and how well coached they are. But I think this is certainly a game of the round on paper, isn't it? Yeah,
man, for sure. And from a selfish point of view, being a Kings guy, man, I want to see the 36ers keep winning and SEM to lose, so we can potentially creep up into that second spot.
Yeah,
automatic entry into the postseason, right? So I'm going to go 36ers on this one, brother.
Yep, I'll do the same. Yep.
All right.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, fun round coming up, and hope everyone, look, if you're living locally, go to the games in Perth. But if you're not, try and watch some of these games. Watch the WNBL games. Get behind, this great initiative that the league does every year now. And looking forward to. It's going to be strange seeing some of these random teams. I've heard a lot of cheap seats, tickets being given away. So maybe the ticket sales for non-Wildcats games aren't as good as they thought there. But hopefully they can get some decent atmosphere in those games, and this can continue to be a thing that happens. I'd love if they did it in Sydney one year. Right? That'd be great.
Yeah. I take that time off.
Nice. All right, we'll finish off with some true false Woods. So I've got a Trae Young question to start us off here. So true or false, Trae Young has been made a scapegoat in Atlanta, whereas the coach, Quinn Snyder, is getting off scot-free.
I'm going to go false on that one.
Okay.
Yes, maybe he has been made a little bit of a scapegoat.
Yeah.
But I think Quinn Snyder, I don't think he deserves as much criticism as some people might think, right? He hasn't... Yeah. I'm
going to go true. I think he has been made a bit of a scapegoat. Look, I do think someone with Quinn Snyder's, ability and how much he's respected around the league, he hasn't got the best out of, quite a few years worth of this team, right? And it hasn't just been the Trae. We've seen, the John Collins years, the Bogdan Bogdanovic, the Clint Capellas, all these sort of guys that we've had that we've now moved on from. It hasn't been able to get us over the edge and get us to even a mid-40s win season there, let alone late 40s there. So I'd say true-ish with that one, a bit of a scapegoat, but look, we'll move on. Hopefully Quinn, coaches the team well over the second half and Atlanta moves up. Yeah, I don't like Quinn. Yeah. All right. True or false? OKC are not as good as we thought they were this season.
I mean, it's a ball the OKC had today. I'm going to go... So repeat the question again one more time.
So OKC are not as good as we thought this season.
False. I think they are. I mean, 33-7. I know they've lost a few, but they're still 7-3 over their last 10, right? Even
Did they not lose to who beat them at home last week? Was it Charlotte by 20 or something? That was one of the most shocking games this season I've seen. I'm going to say true again. Look, they're an amazing team, and you just mentioned their record but I think maybe with the way they started, people thought this could be a team that pushes these Golden State teams or the Michael Jordan Bulls teams. I don't think that's the case here. I still think there's a few little issues there. I think there's some guys that maybe were role players that haven't quite contributed as much this year for different reasons. Lou Dort, I don't think, is having a good year. Yep. Guys like Isaiah Joe and Andrew Wiggins as well just don't seem to have had that same impact that they had last season. But there's a lot of time to go now. And I'm sure they'll probably prove us wrong and win it all, but yeah. All right, Melbourne United look destined for the play-in.
That's an absolute truth.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, I don't know what's going on. I mean, a big part of it is Shea Illy not being there, but that's not all, right?
Yeah, and every team's had injuries, right?
Dean Vickerman is a defensive-minded coach who, really expects, high standards defensively from all the teams he's ever coached in the NBL, right?
It's kind of been answered a little bit like this, with this Torrey Craig signing. But I've got the Wildcats and Kings potential injury replacement choices could impact them going all the way this year. Maybe I'll start with this one. So I think true. I think, hats off to the Kings. They haven't, waited. They've got a quality player coming in that, like you said, knows the FIBA game and the NBL game. So that's something that could prove them a championship winning side this year. Perth's obviously a little bit too determined there because we're not sure what's happening with Duke. But yeah, what's your thoughts on that one?
True. Right? I mean, it's very important. I mean, Kings have already made a move, right?
Yeah.
I still think that, I don't know, it's going to be an uphill battle for either the Kings or the Wildcats to win it all this year. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but yeah. And definitely, I think you guys, especially you guys, we've already done something with Torrey Craig, right? If Willie Jr. is out for an extended period of time, as we talked about it, David Duke, if he's not going to come back for 4 to 6 weeks, you could end up in the play-in, right?
Sure. Sure. Yeah. All right, I appreciate that. It was a really fun show this week. I want to ask you to do something that I haven't asked before, which we do this outro. Can you get up and show me this jersey again?
Oh, yeah, for sure, man.
So Woods is again standing rocking that number 50 Hardwood Classics.
The Swingman.
Swingman.
Hardwood Classics.
Looks like a good size too, right? Yeah. Yeah. Mark Bradtke, number 50. That is awesome. Hey, can your boy get another one for me? I would love one of those in my collection. I would really love one.
Let me see.
All right, sauce it out for me.
All right,
sauce it out. All right, awesome, Jersey Woods. Well, yeah, fun show. Look, it was a little bit mixed feelings talking about the Trae stuff, but probably had we have done this a few days ago, it would have been a bit more sad, but, time heals wounds, as they say there. So just a reminder, as I said at the start of the show, please make sure you like, rate, and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to your audio podcasts. We can be followed on socials. The main one there is X, so we're at Throwback Hoops. I know Woods posted the jersey, I think the Goran Dragic jersey, and the card of the week today. So people enjoy that one. Beef stew, that's right. And we'll get this nice John Jenkins one up. It'll be a good time to get that, and maybe we'll get both of our jerseys up, the Walter Clayton and the Mark Bradtke there.
I reckon what you should do is you should post that John Jenkins one yourself and give us a little bit of a fact about the number 12. And is John Jenkins going to be wearing number 12 in Adelaide?
Yeah, I'd have to think. It's a bit of a random number, isn't it? It's not the number that immediately comes to mind. Yeah, we'll do something like that. That sounds like a plan. And yeah, look, as we mentioned, obviously our email address and other socials there. But yeah, Patreon, as we mentioned each week, feel free to, pledge us a little bit of support there. A lot of cost associated with bringing this every month. The amount of people that come up to you and say, "Oh, it's so good you guys have got more than 15,000 subscribers and everything. You guys must be raking in." Well, no, we're still not making any money. That was never the intention to do it. So we're still paying all the production costs to do it. So if anyone wants to throw us a few dollars, we'd obviously greatly appreciate that. And if anyone's got a Mark Bradtke Philadelphia 76ers jersey they want to hook me up with, I'd love that as well. Fun show. Woods, any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
No, I'm looking forward to Hoops Fest, man. So everyone like enjoy, and yeah, the people of Perth who are listening to this, we've got a lot of friends out there. Get out there, support what's the great event ahead. Yeah.
Good stuff. And look, we've got a few big episodes planned. Definitely, we'll start to get some guests. Probably in February, we'll start to get some guests. And look, what are we 4 episodes away from that big 200 there? So we'll have to do something special for that. But yeah, really enjoyed it, Woods. Big peace out from the Throwback Hoops crew. We'll see you next week.
Peace out.